Okay, so today I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys a different deck profile than normal. This is like my non-competitive build that I haven't played around with in a while, but I figured I'd change it up because I showed off three of the more competitive sides of my builds. This is more of just a casual kind of fun deck. I mean, it can be competitive with the right cards put into it. But yeah, so we're just going to start this off. Uh, so, starting this deck out, I should have probably already told you guys in the beginning of this video, this is my True King Nepthys deck. Pretty much these guys really work well together, the synergy, mainly just due to their effects that most of them want to be popped and sent to the graveyard, so they have effects that go off. This is like 3 copies of the ritual one, Devotee of Nepthys. When she's ritual summoned to the field, you can activate this effect and special summon a Nepthys monster from the deck. But during the end phase of this turn, you destroy this card, or if this card's in your graveyard, you can destroy one Nepthys card in your hand, and if you do, you can special summon it. It's kind of a staple to really run 3 of her because she's just so easy to get out of your deck, so it's just better to run her at the 3 instead of like 2. Then we run 2 copies of the bigger ritual monster, the Cerulean Sacred Phoenix of Nepthys. Pretty much with this guy, he's really good too. I think he's the better one of the ritual monsters in this deck. During your main phase, you can destroy Nepthys cards in your hand or face up on the field. Then you can destroy an equal number of monsters your opponent controls, and then then you can activate this effect. Well, you can only activate each of these effects once per turn, but his other effect is during your next standby phase after this card was destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. Again, he's pretty good at 2. I wouldn't run him at 3 just because of the fact that he is a level 8 monster, so it is harder to come by your materials because most of the time you're sending off most of your stuff for the little ones to the most of the time you're sending off most of your little Nepthys monsters off to the graveyard for the ritual summoning of your smaller ritual monster. Every time. Then we're running 3 copies of Devotee of Nepthys. Now, she is one card I do believe that searches out stuff and adds it to your hand just by destroying 1 card in your hand, which again, this really works well with some of the other cards I'm about to showcase for you guys. But yeah, you can destroy 1 card in your hand, and if you do, you can add 1 Nepthys monster from your deck to your hand, except Disciple of Nepthys. And then they all have this graveyard effect, where during your next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Nepthys spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect to Disciple of Nepthys once per turn. So yeah, they all have this really nice graveyard effect that they all have something different. Then next up, we're running 2 copies of Chronicler of Nepthys. With her, you could target 1 Nepthys card in your graveyard except for herself. Destroy 1 card in your hand, and if you do, you can add that target to your hand. These guys really like to bring themselves back, obviously, because it's the archetype for the Phoenix, so understandable as to why they all have a reincarnation effect or graveyard things that add stuff back, which is pretty cool. During the next standby phase after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Nepthys card from your graveyard to your hand except herself, and you can only use this effect of her once per turn. It's pretty neat. Again, I only run 2 copies of her. I think her ratio is perfect at 2. Then we run 2 copies of the OG Sacred Phoenix of Nepthys, the 1 card that that nobody thought would have got its own archetype back whenever this card was first released. But yeah, his effect is pretty damn cool. Once per turn during your next standby phase after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, special summon this card from the graveyard, and if you do, you can destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. So with this guy, you can chain, well, not really chain, but you can use any of these effects of the little ones to pop off their effects. Like, you could use your Disciple of Nepthys to destroy Sacred Phoenix of Nepthys, send it to the graveyard, get its effect, and on the standby phase, well, during your next standby phase, he comes back to the field and destroys all spell and trap cards on the field. Really good back row destroyer. Great effect. I love it. Now we're, like I said earlier, we're running the True Dracos and True Kings. Only two though. We're only running two True Dracos and two True Kings in this deck, and the only ones we're only running the Fire and the Wind one, which is Miramine, the True Draco Phoenix. Now, since this deck pretty much consists of nothing but fire and wind, this is why I threw these guys in this deck, because they work so well, and this one is probably one of the better ones for this deck too, just because you can special summon this card from your hand just by banishing, or not by banishing, but by destroying two other monsters in your hand, and if they're both wind, you can have your opponent banish exactly 4 cards off the top of their deck, which really, really hurts any deck, really, especially if it's being banished, because they won't get their graveyard effects if they have any graveyard effects, and you're also shortening out your opponent's deck and their chances of getting into things. Then we're running 2 copies of True King Agnamaz, the Vanisher. Again, like I said, since this deck can only consist of mainly fire and wind, these cards in the deck really work well with it. Now, obviously, this works just like the Draco Phoenix, only has different effects. If you destroy 2 fire monsters, you can banish 1 monster from your opponent's field or graveyard if they were both fire. Now, if either one of these are destroyed and sent to the graveyard, if it was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 non-worm monster from your graveyard and add it to your hand, which is really nice because this is in your graveyard due to something that happened to it last turn, and you bring this one out and it's destroyed by a card effect. You can just target this, add it right back to your hand, and just boop. Then we're running 2 copies of Fire King Avatar Arvada. Again, this deck is mainly consisting of fire and wind. So when a monster effect is activated while this monster is on your field, you can quick effect negate the activation, and if you do, you can destroy 1 other fire monster. So, if this guy's on your field and you have Fire King Arvada, pop your True King, and then you get the search off of its effect to add your Draco Phoenix back to your hand if it's in your graveyard at that time. And then, if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 fire beast or beast warrior or winged beast in your graveyard except himself. Special summon it, but has its effects negated, and it's destroyed during the end phase. It's a decent effect because you'll be able to get your you can get into link plays like that. Next up, we play Fire King High Avatar Garunex. Now this card's similar to the Sacred Phoenix of Nepthys, only it's it's either standby phase. It's not just secluded. It's not just restricted to your standby phase. Now, when he's special summoned back from the graveyard after being destroyed by card effect, he destroys all monsters on the field except for himself. And then, when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Fire King monster from your deck, except for Fire King High Avatar Garunex. So you can special summon your Fire King Avatar Arvada from your, from the deck. But That's if he's in there, or whatever other Fire King monsters that you run in the deck. Now I'm running two of the new guys from Dark Neostorm, the Loud Cloud, the Storm Serpent. Again, he works well too, mainly because he has to be special summoned from your hand by banishing one fire and one wind monster from your grave, and then he gains effects based on what monsters you can banish from your graveyard. So pretty much if you banish a fire monster from your graveyard, then you can target one monster your opponent controls, destroy that monster, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack, which is really nice because, destroy a fire monster and target one of your opponent's really strong boss monsters on the field that you can't get over, destroy it, and now this monster gains that original attack. So then, you now have a giant beat stick on the board. You can banish one wind monster from your graveyard, then target one card in your opponent's spell and trap guard zone and destroy it. So pretty much, he is a monster. He pops monsters and he pops spells, depending on what you banish from your graveyard. And then we're running one copy of Defender of Nepthys and Matriarch of the Nepthys, only because these guys really only need to be at one because you don't want to see too many copies of either one of them. With Defender, during your main phase, you can destroy one card in your hand, and if you do, special summon one level 4 or lower Nepthys monster from your hand, except for Defender. During your next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by card effect instead of the graveyard, you destroy one Nepthys monster in your deck, except for Defender. Now, this is really nice because you can get her, destroy a card that you don't need in your hand, and then you get to special summon another Nepthys monster from your hand. Now, Matriarch, you can target one level 4 lower Nepthys monster in your graveyard, except Matriarch, destroy one card in your hand, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster defense position, but negate its effects. During your next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by its card effect instead of the graveyard, you can special summon this card from the graveyard, and you can only use each effective Matriarch Nepthys once per turn. Now, I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, Defender here is the one where you can destroy one Nepthys card from your deck. So say you're having issues seeing your Sacred Phoenix of Nepthys and it's still in your deck. Well, you can activate her graveyard effect, pop this card from your deck, and then on your next standby phase, special summon it and wipe out your opponent's back row. So, really nice effects with these ones. Obviously, since we're running the two ritual monsters, you want to have their ritual spells, it is a really nice card because it also has a secondary of pop effect if you ritual summon and the tributed monster and you tribute a devoted nepthys or Cerulean Sacred Phoenix. You can destroy one card on the field. So if you use, like, let's say you go ahead and go Devotia Nepthys, and then you use the targeted monster as Cerulean Sacred Phoenix as your targeted tribute for the ritual summon, you can also destroy one card off of this card effect, which is really nice because apparently all these cards all have like to destroy things, not just themselves, which is pretty neat. And then I run 3 copies of Dragonic Diagram in this deck. Now, like I said, since I'm running the 2 True King and True Dracos, this card really helps them get out to the board, get to your hand quicker. All True Draco and all True King monsters on the field gain a 300 attack and defense. The first time each tributed summoned True Draco or True King monster would be destroyed by battle each turn. It's not destroyed. Once per turn, you can destroy one other card you control or in your hand, and if you do, you can add a True Draco or True King card from your hand. Now, this card really synergizes with the deck because again, these cards, the Nepthys monsters, really like to be destroyed so they can gain their effects. Then we're going to be running 3 Fire Formation Tenkies. This is just to tutor out your Fire King Arvada avatar from the deck. And it's just your continuous spell of the deck. It doesn't really do much other than just get out your Fire King from the deck, just because he's a level 4, and that's the only thing it targets in this deck. So then, we're going to be running 3 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites since we're running a ritual deck. If you don't see either or of the ritual spell or the ritual monster, you can go ahead and activate this card, and then you can search your deck for your ritual spell and then your ritual monster, so you have it in your hand already. So this card is a must-have in any ritual deck. If you're not running this card in your deck, I don't know what kind of ritual build you're running. I mean, other than probably, the other cards that help tutor out your ritual spells, like the talisman, the incantation cards. Sorry, I couldn't think about that for a second. I had a brain fart. And since I am running field spells, I'm running the 2 copies of terraforming in the deck just to help me get my dragonic diagrams to my hand quicker. I'm running 1 copy of Onslaught of the Fire Kings. Now this card is really great. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon 1 fire beast, beast warrior, or winged beast monster from your deck, but its effects are negated. So really, you can just go ahead and use that card to target your Garnex, your Sacred Phoenix, or your Fire King avatar. But the main 2 that I would honestly go ahead and target off of Onslaught of the Fire Kings would be your Gyronex or your Sacred Phoenix and Nepthys, because they are getting destroyed at the end of the turn, so they will be destroyed by card effect. So either way, you're still going to get them back from your graveyard. If your opponent has a really big board, I would recommend going for Gyronex, just because you can send it to the graveyard, and then on their standby phase, special summon this boy, and then blow their whole field up so they're left with nothing, and you have this on board already. And then, it'll give them some. I mean, it's not like they can't get over the monster, but they'll still have some sort of issue because you just destroyed their whole board with 1 card. Then, last but not least, I'm running 2 copies of Torrential Tribute just for that extra board destruction, because, again, you want to try to disrupt your opponent's boards as much as possible. I am not running any hand traps in this deck currently, or any Called by the Graves, just because of the fact all of my current hand traps and Called by the Graves are in my Celebrant Great build, and those are the only copies that I have until I can get my hands on some more. So, as I said before, that's why I said earlier in the beginning of this video, this deck is not the most competitive build, just because of the fact it's missing hand traps and Called by the Graves, just to stop everything from getting hand trapped and whatnot. But yeah, that would be this build right here, the True King Nepthys for the main deck. For our extra deck, I am running a short supply of extra deck monsters, but I'm running 1 copy of Nepthys, the Sacred Flame. This card is so good for this deck. I really love this card just because of the fact it gains effects based on the amount of Nepthys monsters that you used for its link summon. So if you use 1, it can't be destroyed by battle, but if you use 2 Nepthys monsters, it can't be destroyed by a card effect. Also, it gains 1200 attack. But if you use 3, neither player can target this card with card effects. Also, it gains another 1200 attack. So it beefs itself up. So if you use 3 Nepthys monsters, including a ritual, this card just becomes beefy because it can't be targeted with card effects, it can't be destroyed by battle, and it just goes up by 1200. It's just really, really good. Then we're running 3 copies of Nepthys, the Sacred Preserver. This card's pretty good. It's not as good as the other Link monster, the Link 3, just because of the fact it doesn't gain anything and it can be destroyed by battle, but it does have a decent effect. You can add a level 8 Winged Beast monster from your deck, and then you can add 1 ritual spell, so it's kind of like pre-prep, but it lets you bring out whatever, so you can target your Sacred Phoenix and Nepthys, or you can target the ritual bird, the bigger ritual bird of the deck. And then you can destroy one nepthys monster this card points to, and special summon one nepthys monster with a different original name from your graveyard, but it negates its effects. So, again, it's not that great, but it's still something. It helps you get to your plays. Then we're playing one Phantom Fortress Interblathener. It takes 2 level 9 monsters. I'm almost certain that this deck has level 9 monsters in it. Yeah, that was a dumb thing. The True Kings and the True Dracos. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, then activate one of these effects. You can banish one card your opponent controls, banish one random card from your opponent's hand, or banish one card from your opponent's graveyard, or banish the top card of your opponent's deck face up. So this card pretty much just says, I'm going to banish your stuff, and yeah. I don't really go into that. The last 2 cards of this deck are something I would rather go into. And then, you got number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon. 2 level 8 monsters, just because you want that spell negator. It's just a really good staple in any level 8 deck. Then we got True King of All Calamities. Now, this card makes this deck absolutely amazing, just because it's just the True King. He's the True King of All Calamities. Not much more to say there. But yeah, that's it for my deck profile for this Burnin' Chicken deck. I guess I have a thing for flaming animals that do things, but yeah. Again, if you guys like what you see, just give me a like, subscribe, and again, I'll try to add newer content to my channel as soon as I can. I'm pretty limited right now on what I can do, but hopefully over weekends I might just do updates on tournaments if anything happens. Do local plays. See about doing deck profiles for my channel of other people's decks, so you guys can see the diversity in the meta right now and what other people are playing. Maybe it'll give you ideas for your decks that you have. Or maybe it just might get you, maybe, if you're a returning player, it might just give you an idea of what you want to play. If you're a new player, it might just, help you gain interest in the game itself from what you've heard from other people or what you've seen last. But again, give me a like, a subscribe, and I'll do some more content as soon as I can.